Welcome to the March CCL meeting. This is a Hawaii statewide meeting, so we have people from all of the different island chapters attending. And today we're featuring a guest speaker from Blue Planet Foundation. So looking forward to that. Cool. We're going to go through a little bit about CCL to introduce you if you're not familiar with who we are, what we are trying to accomplish. We'll have our guest speaker, and then we'll go through some national and Hawaii specific updates. And we'll take a climate action at the end. So you'll leave the meeting feeling very accomplished and you've taken an action towards climate. So let's move forward. We always need to start these with a little bit of connection before content. Just getting to know each other a little bit more. So one thing we're asking is, what are you hoping to see for Earth Month? So Earth Month is April, starting in, just over a week. You can either put in the chat or raise your hand and speak. What are you hoping to see from Earth Month? Either personally or in groups you're in, legislative-wise. Does anyone want to go first? Earth Day at UH Hilo from Ruth. I'm looking forward to Earth Day on Maui too. Lots of great organizations showed up last year. I'm excited to chat with everybody and meet new people. Let's see. Anybody else? Go ahead, Rita. You can unmute yourself.
I think I am unmuted.
You're good.
Okay. I have a couple of things coming up. One is, like everybody else, we're at Kauai Community College. We're going to be celebrating Earth Day. I'm going to be with the electric vehicle group. So I'm looking forward to that on April the 20th. But I've gotten myself into quite a thing going on here, because I don't know if you all are aware that on Kauai, the landfill will be full. Some people say it's already full, but officially it will be full within 2 years. They're trying to get a permit to raise it up 50 more feet so that it will last 2 more years. So we'll get 4 more years. So we'll get 6 years out of the whole thing, which means in 6 years from now, there will be a full landfill on Kauai. And since I'm also with Zero Waste Kauai, we are trying to do all kinds of things to get people to divert from the landfill. And I started out by making a PowerPoint presentation to take around. I've been to some schools, I've been to some groups of people, but it's hard to get your foot in the door. But all of a sudden, I got an invitation to go to San Francisco to Zero Waste Forum and tell them about our situation. And it just feels so exciting that even if Kauai people aren't interested, the people in San Francisco are. So that's my story for April.
Thanks for getting so involved. Hopefully you have a good trip to San Francisco.
Thank you,
Ashley and team. I just want to highlight, and I put a link in the chat to a number of events that are happening that are being sponsored by Hawaii EV. So across the state, there are a number of activities related to electric vehicles. So I'm looking forward to that.
Awesome, including one tonight, right after this call, right? Noah?
Oh yeah. We have an online forum to talk about public charging experiences across the state.
You're not zoomed out by the end of this. Definitely join that too. Cool. And Keith is meeting with the mayor about expanding the Waimea Trail and Greenway. That's awesome. Anything else you want to share about that, Keith?
Mute first. There we go. Unmute first. Yes. This has been quite a labor of love by many. And we're hoping to expand east and certainly to the west. And, this has basically been handed to, probably more than a generation of people. I just happen to be a steward at this time with others.
Awesome. Thanks, Keith. Anybody else? If we want to speak out loud or write in the chat. Otherwise, we can move on. Oh, Ron, you raised your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that some of us have volunteered to be liaisons or co-liaisons with U.S. members of Congress. And I happen to be liaison for Representative Joe Tokuda. And my hope for this next month is to continue to build a better relationship with her legislative environmental aid by more frequent contact than I've had in the past. So that's what I want to do.
Awesome, Ron. Keola, you have your hand raised as well.
Yes, I'm so sorry because I wanted to just say that we are going to have a table up at the University of Hawaii in Hilo for Earth Day, but for some reason it's missing in my calendar. Ruth, do you remember what day Earth Day is up there?
April 22nd, Monday.
22nd, okay. So we will have a table up there, and just to mention to Keith Thiel, we're in the process of building our banner stand. And so I look forward to sharing a banner stand that was envisioned by you, and we're following suit.
Awesome. And the event at the college on Maui is also happening on the 22nd, on Monday. So lots of things happening for Earth Month. Very exciting. Thank you guys for sharing. If you want to share more, feel free to put it in the chat. We do have a full agenda, so I'm going to move us forward just a little bit. But keep chatting in the chat if you would like. Let's see. Next up. Who we are. So I'll pass this over to Ruth to cover.
Thank you. So I just want to say what we believe in. The Citizens Climate Lobby is a nonprofit, nonpartisan, grassroots advocacy organization focused on national policies to address climate change. These core values guide our staff and volunteers, that's us, along the way and these are our core values, that we're focused on climate change and we move Congress to pass big solutions that will ensure a healthy climate. We also work on complementary solutions that help us work together in our communities and foster a more collaborative environment in Congress. So we're collaborating here this evening. Thank you very much. Another one of our core values is optimism in the face of all the challenges that we know are there, like our land filling up. We are optimistic. Another one of our values is diversity. We empower everyone in exercising their personal and political power, regardless of race, ethnicity, nationality, gender, sexual orientation, age, religion, ability, or political affiliation. Relationships. We take the most generous approach to other people as possible. Appreciation, gratitude, and respect. Integrity. Our approach is thoughtful and thorough. We certainly hope. We consult experts. We are prepared. We use data and solicit feedback before forming opinions or making decisions. We follow up when we are asked, and so on. And as far as being nonpartisan, our group is open to anyone who is serious about solving climate change, no matter where you live, what you wear, and so on. Personal power. We use our voices to be heard in our democracy. This simple act transforms us from being spectators to being engaged citizens. We are volunteer-driven, trusting volunteers to make important decisions. Each of us is essential to solving climate change. That's it for our core values. Thank you very much. This is our mission statement: to create the political will for a livable world by empowering individuals to experience breakthroughs in exercising their personal and political power. As empowered citizens, we lobby Congress, we talk with neighbors, friends, and local officials about how national climate action can help ensure a healthy future while strengthening the American economy.
So what you see here are is essentially the policy priorities for Citizens Climate Lobby at the national level. As many of you know, we historically have focused on carbon fee and dividend. It's a policy that continues to be a key priority for the organization. In addition, and I think it's been a couple of years now, we also advocate for energy efficiency with electrification of our infrastructure, so the electrification of our buildings, for example. We are focused on nature-based carbon sequestration solutions, so forests as an example, and then also accelerating the expansion of accelerating and expanding the national grid. Right, I think we all know that there's a lot of energy that's generated in certain parts of the country, and the demand centers are far from those locations. So the importance of upgrading and expanding the transmission system is really important, and we're focused on clean energy permitting reform as well. This is at the national level. Now, locally, Citizens Climate Lobby Hawaii, we're advocating for all of those, but any and all policies that allow us to enable climate action, right? And I'm referring to reducing emissions, sequestering and capturing and storing the carbon that's already out in the atmosphere, and also measures to enable resilience and adaptation. You'll learn more about the bills that we're supporting later. I think, Keith, you have a slide to share about that. But I'd like to call out one, SB 3021, a measure designed to increase the adoption of electric micromobility. So these are like e-bikes and electric mopeds and the like. This bill, by the way, also happens to be one of the policy priorities of the Blue Planet Foundation. And organizations have been doing great work for our environment for the past few years. And it so happens our special guest tonight is with the Blue Planet Foundation. So it is my honor to introduce Jodi Robinson, a good friend and a mover in the environmental policy space. She joined Blue Planet Foundation, it was January of last year, and as the policy analyst, she does research, champions and activates support for equitable and community-centric climate policy solutions. And she brings over 7 years of experience in managing legislative strategies and community engagement here in the state. She's worked as a policy advocate for the Sierra Club of Hawaii, where she helped advance climate policies at both the county as well as state level, including measures to protect Oahu's drinking water at Red Hill, implement a statewide ban on coal, and also establish an electric bus program at the city and county of Honolulu. She has an environmental studies degree from Manoa. Jodi, thank you for making time for tonight's event. We really appreciate you being here, your contributions to our community, and then also looking forward to hearing what you have to share about the policy priorities and how we can support them as well. So it's all yours.
Aloha. Thank you, Noel, for that introduction, and to Citizens Climate Lobby for inviting me to share a little bit about what we're working on here at Blue Planet. I'm sure there's a ton of alignment with the folks working at the state capitol now and some of y'all's bills, but I'm here to just share a few of our kind of top priorities. We're, of course, like you, monitoring dozens of bills still, but I just wanted to highlight a few that are really important for us as we move forward this legislative session. So I do have slides, and let me start my sharing. I have to get into present mode. Hold on one second. Okay, great. Can I get a thumbs up if you can see? Okay, great. Thank you so much. I'll try and stop. Please just interrupt me because it's hard for me to see everybody and in present mode. So please just unmute yourself if you have a question. This should be short, like a 10-minute presentation. I'm only covering a few bills. But as Noelle said, I'm Jodi Robinson with Blue Planet. Blue Planet, for those who aren't familiar with the organization, we are a Hawaii-based nonprofit. Our mission is to decarbonize Hawaii and mitigate climate change impacts. And a big focus of our work is equity. And we work on policies supporting energy efficiency, energy affordability, and access to sustainable transportation options. A core focus of our work and some of our policy priorities is around energy equity, and this is just the historical disadvantage of communities to be underinvested in clean energy solutions and to have limited access to energy efficient homes and transportation. So a lot of the policies that I'm mentioning today are going to be in the line of really addressing this issue. We see this in Hawaii because we have the highest electricity rates in the country. Low-income households are spending up to 15% of their household incomes on their electricity bills, have a very high energy burden there. We also know that energy bills have risen on every island across the state since 2020. Now, I think with the Maui wildfires and some of the things that are happening with the electric utility company, it's likely that rates are going to increase shortly. So this is a cause for concern and a reason why we are doubling down on some of this energy efficiency and equity policy. And also in 2022, over 15,000 households in Hawaii struggled or could not pay their electricity bills. So one of the policy solutions that we're really focusing on this session is an extension of our energy efficiency portfolio standards from 2030 to 2045. So energy efficiency is really important. It's maybe not the sexiest issue, but it really is the cheapest and cleanest way for us to reach our 100% clean energy goals. The easiest way to reduce energy emissions is to conserve energy. And it's this key strategy to achieve our 100% renewable energy targets. And it also helps households, save on their utility bills. So it's a win-win for the climate and for your pocketbook. So what are our energy efficiency portfolio standards? Well, on the books now, we have a law that requires our state to save 4,300 gigawatt hours of energy savings through energy efficiency measures through 2030. This is regulated by our Hawaii Public Utilities Commission. They evaluate our progress towards our EAPS goals or standards, and they set interim goals every 5 years to adjust this target. Right now, we have about 2,500 gigawatt hours, or about 60% of this goal met currently, as of 2019, which was kind of one of the last reports that we produced on our metrics towards the energy efficiency portfolio standards. So one of the bills that we're really hopeful that will pass this year, there are two that are still alive, House Bill 1828 and SB 2122. And this would really extend our energy efficiency portfolio goals to 2045. So aligning with that 100% clean energy goal and our decarbonization goals, but also increasing the goals. So right now we have one target and we want to really up the ante so that we're seeing even more energy efficiency savings by 2045. So that's the main two things of the goals. It extends the date and it ups the goal for the target. This was a bill that made it to the final day of conference committee last session. So we're really hopeful that this year we'll be able to get it over the finish line at the state legislature. The second bill, or a group of bills that I'm going to talk about, is some of our transportation policies. So Blue Planet really wanted to see bold action on ground transportation this session. We know that we have to decarbonize transportation if we're going to reach our state goals. Transportation sector, ground and aviation and marine, consumed about 57% of our total energy used in Hawaii, and we still have over 1 million gas-powered vehicles on our roads today. So a key part of our reaching our goals is decarbonization of transportation. And we have some existing transportation-related policies, but they're really related to, I think, goal-setting bills. So in 2017, we had the 4 mayors commit to zero-emission public fleets. In 2018, we, of course, set our decarbonization goals for the entire state, which included emissions from the transportation sector. And then last year, we actually passed a bill that also set long-term emission targets for ground, marine, and inter-island transportation, like for the airlines, essentially. But these are really goal-setting bills, and what we see now is a need to really enact policies that are going to move these goals forward. So, unfortunately, as many of you probably know, or some of you probably know, a lot of the the bills related to transportation really didn't make it too far this year. So we have a limited pool of bills still alive, but there are a couple. So SB 2031, the bill that Noel mentioned around expanding the rebate program for micro mobility options, really providing residents with alternate transportation choices and giving them a rebate to purchase these kind of options is a high priority, and one that we think is really important for transportation equity. And then we have one EV ready bill still alive, and this would target new state construction. So this would be a bill that any future state construction would be required to be built as 25% EV charger ready. So having the power and conduit in the parking lots when things are constructed, so that in the future we can have charging stations put up. It also requires a few or explores how a few of our existing state facilities can be converted to be EV ready and have chargers. So so that's kind of the only EV ready bill that's still alive. Unfortunately, like I said, a lot of the transportation policies did die this session. So these are the two that we're still looking at and hopeful that we can get passed this year. And then a new bill that maybe not so much on your radar yet, but has become kind of a hot topic lately, is a bill related to building codes. And so one of our priorities is going to be this building codes bill, and it's really to ensure that we prevent any delays to our energy code adoption. So what are building codes? Why are they important? Essentially, modern building codes, they impact everything. They impact our safety, public health, climate emissions, climate resiliency, and our overall quality of life. So some of the codes that we deal with here in Hawaii, are protecting public health and safety, things like fire codes, having sprinklers in new construction, making sure that things are designed in ways that it protects public health and safety. Of course, codes relate to improving climate resiliency, so ensuring we have buildings that are able to withstand some of the storms that we're going to be facing as a state. Really smart policy to be kind of future-proofing and being more resilient in light of a changing climate, because buildings are going to be around for 50, 100 years moving forward. And then a big part of the building codes is the energy conservation code, which essentially ensures that we have energy efficient homes being built, really seeing, again, drawing down, conserving energy, using smart insulation techniques so we don't have to run our ACs 24/7, things like that are kind of innovative. Innovative and a holistic approach to kind of improving quality of life for our residents, and of course addressing kind of that high utility bills, again, reducing electricity bills through efficiency. So we have a current process for building codes. Essentially what it is there is an International Code Council, which is a kind of nonprofit group that meets. They have a democratic process to go over latest code updates, and they produce a kind of a model code every 3 years. We have a state building codes council that essentially looks at those model codes, meets, makes amendments, and adopts a Hawaii state level building codes, because there are some codes maybe related to heating needs that aren't going to apply here in Hawaii. So they have an opportunity to meet. This building code council is about 13 members. It's like the counties, a lot of folks from the building industry, the architects, general contractors, the state energy office is on this group. So they meet and then they come up with their state level code. And then each county has 2 years to adopt the state level code that passed, because each island has specific codes. You know, geographically, Hawaii Island is very different than Oahu. And so we have different codes for each county as well. So just to say that historically we are supposed to adopt and update our codes every 4 years, but we typically operate on a much slower timeline than that. So we're still on our 2018, this is the International Energy Conservation Code. So our energy code is from 2018. And before that, I think it took 9 years for us to adopt the previous version of that. So the bill that we're seeing and something that we're concerned about is House Bill 2089. This would delay the code adoption process for building codes. So this includes the residential and commercial building codes. Essentially what it is it allows the state and the county to skip code adoption cycles. So as I mentioned, we have like a 4-year timeline that we're supposed to be working on. We don't do it that quickly, but we're supposed to work on 4-year. And this would statutorily allow essentially the skipping of cycles. So this would bump us to 8 years out of compliance with kind of the model codes that are coming down from the International Code Council. This is concerning because it would have negative impacts to FEMA funding. So FEMA, or the Federal Emergency Management Agency, they look at modern building codes and states having modern building codes as being really important to offer grants, particularly one grant related to climate resiliency and building climate resiliency, which is super important here in Hawaii. That would be at risk if we were to pass this bill. Of course, impacts to climate resiliency just being 10 years, maybe 20 years out of date with model codes. And some of the rapidly changing things that are happening with the climate would be delayed if this bill were passed. And then, of course, public health and safety. I think Lahaina is top of mind for everyone. And, you know, we don't want to see fires. We want to make sure our buildings are prepared as much as possible for things like that. And I know in Oahu, there was a fire a few years ago at the Marco Polo condo building, right? Because they didn't have fire sprinklers, things like that. So that's another reason why building codes have direct impact and why we're concerned about this bill. One other reason why we have concerns about just skipping code timeline is it doesn't really address the root cause of the issue. And the root cause of the issue and why it's so hard for us to stay, or one of the main reasons why it's hard for us to stay on this timeline for building code adoption is because we don't have staff to facilitate the Codes Council. So the legislature did authorize an executive director and an assistant to run this entire process. It's never been funded or filled, which I think is a primary issue on why we're not able to, you know, kind of facilitate this process a little bit more efficiently and effectively. So we see that as really the fundamental issue is we need somebody to kind of run the show and run the program if we want to make sure that we're able to adopt codes in a timely manner. The reality is issues of affordable housing, climate change, fire safety, they're not going to go away. So we really do need to put staff and funding and intention into making our code adoption process, you know, more effective moving forward. And I did want to mention currently that the bill did exempt the Energy Conservation Code. So we strongly opposed the bill when it came out, and as kind of a compromise, they took the energy codes out. So I just want to mention that is a lot of the things that Blue Planet works on is related to the energy code. Energy efficiency measures are going to be included in the energy code. So they did take that out of the bill currently. We still have to be vigilant to make sure that it doesn't get re-put in and the timeline isn't delayed for the energy code. But it still impacts the residential and commercial codes, which has the impacts more on some of the public health and safety and the climate resiliency. So we're still engaging on this bill. We're kind of ramping up actually engagement on this bill because it is one that is concerning and continues to move forward through the process. It's being pushed pretty heavily by industry and developer interests as a way to, you know, get more affordable housing, you know, deregulate. That's the solution to affordable housing. So it is moving forward. decision making, there was a hearing on it yesterday, and decision making got deferred to tomorrow. And after tomorrow, if it continues to move forward, there is still one more committee that needs to hear the bill. So there is still an opportunity to engage on this measure if it's something that you're interested in. And
Jodi?
the way that you can go ahead.
Yeah, Noel here. So I just want to be clear, or be clear about the position. So it sounds like this is something that should be opposed, or at a minimum that there be constructive criticism, right? Comments to address what you just described, which is, delaying it is essentially a band-aid, and there are all these different consequences that are undesirable. Fix the underlying issue. If that's funding to allow for effective execution on the regular cycle, then that's what should be done. But it sounds like they've made some tweaks to the policy, so there's some exemptions. But so does that mean it should be just commented upon or opposed with recommendations?
So there are different tactics. There are, I would say, environmental groups that are still strongly opposing the bill. There are still industry groups. So the entire building industry is not in support of this. Some people are saying, this is not, what is this going to do? This is not the solution. Some groups are opposing. For Blue Planet, we are providing like comments and concerns. And the reason why we're doing that is because as kind of an energy organization, we really don't normally engage on the building codes besides the energy codes. So because they took that part out, we wouldn't normally oppose a building codes bill, even though, we do have concerns about the overall impacts of it. It's not really in our scope of something that we would normally oppose. So we're just providing comments and kind of concerns, as you mentioned. And we will be doing an action alert on the bill. Kind of our messaging is, please conserve the energy codes, and here are some of the other things that are at risk if you do choose to move this forward. Particularly concerning for those who are familiar with our state legislature process is at the end of session, they go into something called conference committee, which is essentially, the chairs meet with no public testimony, and a bill gets spit out at the end that it's sometimes not favorable. So that's my preference is to not have this bill continue to be floundering and moving and having another thing to watch, but especially not having any delays to the energy code, because the efficiency part is so important. It saves families money on their bills, cuts our carbon emissions. So that's really our main concern about it.
Got it. Thank you.
So how you can stay engaged with us in our work, we do have an email list that we send out action alerts on. It's here. This is the link, blueplanetfoundation.org/climate-advocate. So you can sign up with the email list, and you'll get emails from me when some of our priority bills get scheduled for a hearing. We do send action alerts on bills, not more broad than the ones that I mentioned. Those are just some of the top ones that we're monitoring. And then, of course, on social media, on Instagram, we're Blue Planet Found, and we do sometimes provide action alerts and calls to action on that. But that's just a way to stay kind of more regularly engaged with our work and what we're up to. So with that, I will stop sharing and see if anyone has questions.
I do have one more. Sorry. So, the EAPS goals that you mentioned earlier, how there's a goal to reduce, energy consumption by a certain amount by a certain point in time. Does that take into account the energy demand for transportation as it transitions from fossil to electricity? Because that will naturally increase the electricity demand, right? But net, it should reduce the energy inputs into the ecosystem. So does that goal take that into account, the transition?
No, I don't think it does. There is a set of criteria, and there is some flexibility with the PUC, but it's really focused just on the electricity sector. It doesn't really account for some of the additional needs that are going to happen when we electrify.
Okay, thank you.
Keola.
I was wondering if we could kind of share the comments amongst ourselves as we do make comments. For myself, for example, the most important comment that I think I could give is say, hey, if we don't make the 8 back to 4 or at least 6 years timeline, then we will be paying hard for it with FEMA cutbacks for us. So I think if one of us chooses, the thing that's most prevalent in their mind and use that, there might be a realization that we're not just pumping out the same thing from everybody, that each person has their own concern. That was just my idea.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And something I'd like to do in our action alerts is I try to provide talking points. We provide sample testimony and talking points, right? So you can kind of customize on what's most important to you. It's also important to note that some of the counties are struggling to adopt the codes in a timely manner, right? There are delays that happen with the permitting process. Sometimes government moves quite slowly. So I know some of you are on Hawaii Island, and Hawaii County was kind of in previous years has been very supportive of bills like this. So I also think that that's a good talking point if you are on Hawaii Island, to mention that, because it is, it's important for neighbor island representation at the legislature as well. So mentioning that would also be, I think, helpful. Ashley, and then Ron.
Yeah, I was curious if Blue Planet writes any bills, or are you mostly just seeing what bills get proposed at the beginning of the session and support or oppose, and kind of how your organization works around that?
We do both. Some of these bills were repeats. Some of them I wrote. So we do both. It depends. Ron?
Yeah, thanks. Just a little thing that happened here on Hawaii Island not so long ago. We were going to put up a little solar carport to charge our EV. And what we learned when we talked to an architect was that you can no longer use post and pier construction for a carport, which is inexpensive and has a long history, because the code says it's not going to withstand the bad weather that's coming down the pipe. So now the code says you've got to use huge concrete foundations, for resilience. And the comment was raised, well, what about all the emissions that are associated with this increased concrete use? And I'm wondering if you have a position or a comment on that.
No, I haven't heard that. I haven't heard that one. There still is a process for the counties to take. I guess my response is there are model codes that come down and then the state adopts them, and then the counties do have some flexibility to amend or adopt as needed. So there is opportunities to engage on it. I will say the model codes coming down are very strong on kind of climate. A lot of them, or some of the codes that are going to be coming down, are actually going to be like carbon neutral kind of construction. So that's really exciting. And hopefully some of those issues are going to be addressed. As we kind of shore up our climate resiliency, I think there are going to be impacts to emissions and some of the construction. And then, of course, Hawaii, we import a lot of these construction materials. So there's associated emissions with those as well. So it is kind of a dynamic conversation that needs to happen.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you guys so much.
Yeah, that pregnant pause is a signal that, there's an app that no one else has a question at this moment in time. Jodi, thank you so much for making time to join us here. After listening to what you shared, clearly there are some bills that we should also consider. Would you be able to share the slides that you shared?
Yes.
Yeah.
I will put them in the chat. I have a link to the public presentation, and then the easiest way to get in touch with me is probably signing up for the email list, because then you don't have to worry too much, and I'll provide some of the information sharing on when these bills are being heard.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
Guys. Have a good night. Aloha.
Okay, you too. Aloha.
Thanks so much. That was awesome. I love hearing from all these different organizations in Hawaii and what everyone's doing. So first we'll do state level updates, and then we'll move to some national updates. So stay on. So we have 2024 legislation. And Noel, we have a slide about Environment Day.
Oh, yeah. So on the, let's see, this was March 12th. There were, I think, about 14 or so environmental groups that were invited to join Environment Day, perhaps the first Environment Day that was celebrated at the Capitol. Hawaii Environmental Change Agents, and many of us who are part of CCL are also part of that group. We organized this, invited a whole bunch of groups, and then we tabled at the event. So the images you see there are some of the scenes, give you an idea of who was there. There are quite a few groups. Interestingly enough, there were a number of people that had for the first time seen each other in person, right? We've engaged with them like over the years. My meeting with Paul, for example, was the first time, and I've been working with him for years, right? So that was incredible to be able to see each other face to face. And of course, we were at the Capitol, so we had legislators come by and check out the booths and have the conversation. So it was a success. It was small, intentionally small, and our hope is that in the coming year we'll do it again, and it'll be much bigger. Yeah, to everyone who participated, thank you. And I think details will be posted as well on the Kiko website. Thank you.
Thanks, Noel. Awesome. And next we have, kind of following along with Blue Planet, we have some other bills that we support that are aligned with our CCL mission. And so, Keith, do you want to take this one?
Sure. These are the CCL bills that we've been following and supporting. And we do this in conjunction, in coalition rather, with the Hawaii change agents. And just going through, these bills have percolated up. However, we are waiting for some of them, well, all of them actually, to be heard. There's the bill covering streamlining permitting on rooftop solar. Then there's establishing climate health and environment, and with a this is kind of the visitor tax, and then there's both the House Bill 1828 and the Senate Bill 2122, extending the state's energy efficiency portfolio. It was to initially, when passed, this is basically an edit of existing regulation, pushing it from 2030 out to 2045, which makes a lot of sense. And then state buildings having being EV charger ready, provisioning, new buildings is really important, a lot less expensive than retrofitting. And then House Bill 1688 just assists transitioning to a circular economy that is, being prospective versus reactive. Again, we hope to have this heard by the Ways and Means Committee. Anyway, again, this is legislation. We can say there's been good things happening. We haven't won them all, and so anybody that's interested in making comments, there is actually on our website, I believe, a little how-to of how to sign up and log in and make comments on these various bills. Any questions?
I just want to add to that. Thanks, Keith. So what so CCL Hawaii is actually submitting testimony in support of these bills. So we're actually, it's not at an individual level, but one of us, we've delegated to different groups, different individuals, Paul, Virginia, et cetera, and we're submitting on behalf of CCL Hawaii. So we actually have a signature line indicating that this testimony is on behalf of CCL Hawaii in support of, and then we have these different measures. So FYI.
Ruta, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify on that first one, SB 2539, HB 2614. It says it needs a hearing in CPN/WAM. Which of those bills is that? HB 2614 that needs the hearing, or the SB?
I'd have to go back to the website.
I can look
They're
it up.
companion bills. If you pull them up on the legislative site, type one in, and if you don't see it's.
Yeah, I'll look it up. I just was looking for.
WAM is a Senate, right? Versus Finance, which is House, or do I have that backwards?
I have no idea.
No,
okay.
That's correct. WAM is Senate.
Okay, yeah. So I'd look at the Senate bill.
Well, some of them have crossed over already, so it's hard to tell.
Yes, this has crossed over.
One.
Yeah, this has crossed over from the House. I think it's currently in the Senate, and the hearing we're expecting is the CPN and WAM. WAM is usually the last stop for a lot of these bills because it means how it gets funded.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it. And yeah, these ones are supported by CCL, as Noelle mentioned. You're welcome to support it individually as well, but we've already submitted our CCL Hawaii-wide support for these. And we're just going to do a media committee update from, did Noelle leave already?
No, I'm here.
Are you still there? You're still there. Okay.
Yeah, I just need to be able to share my screen. So, so Audrey Lynn is a youth leader, and she's with Climate Future Forum, CCL Youth, and recently she and along with another youth leader joined Code Green, Howard Wiggs, Code Green on Think Tech Hawaii. Subsequent to that, she was honored essentially by Think Tech Hawaii, and I'd like to be able to share a video of her talk. Just an.
And as we see the influx of natural disasters and extreme weather, the most effective way to change our direction is to make the price of fossil fuels, which contributes to greenhouse gas emissions and then contributes to global warming, reflect the actual costs that they are causing, which would be a huge incentive for the economy to then shift to renewable energy. And a carbon cashback bill will do exactly this. Would basically tax fossil fuel corporations and then compensate consumers, which would better enable Hawaii's transition to renewable energies. And we also researched how, studies have shown how carbon cashback would result in a 10% reduction in carbon emissions in a revenue neutral manner. In Hawaii, we are so lucky to be blessed by just such an abundance of the land, and we really see how the indigenous populations truly treasured and protected the Aina. And now we kind of see the effects of climate change that are really omnipresent in every sector of the population, from increased sea levels to severe weather to impacts on our economy and our daily lives. We want real systemic change within our legislature to save our future. To be frank, we're not really pleased with how our state looks right now. And you mentioned the Maui fires, and many of our students and participants mention devoting time after school to help volunteer for the Maui fires. And for me personally, I grew up in California, and one of the most defining moments in my journey as a climate activist was the California wildfires. which happened especially during the COVID pandemic. And it was really, really, incredible to see how the effects of climate change can just affect me firsthand. And with the Lahaina wildfires, we see that amplified at such a local and granular level. What we do on a state level, what we do on a local level will resonate hopefully at a national level or even around the globe. So we hope that what's one youth-led movement in Hawaii can then have such a bigger impact on such a larger scale. We want to be net zero by 2045. And it's amazing that we're making those commitments, and now we want to see that follow-up, which is those legislative changes, those bills, that legislation to begin to be passed, so that we can adequately say that yes, we've met those goals, and we want the rest of the nation to follow.
So much, Noelle. Cool. So we're almost at the end of the meeting. Thank you guys for sticking with this. We have some actions to take. So in the next 6 minutes, you'll have taken potentially 2 different actions to support climate policies. These are from Citizens Climate Lobby National. Let's go ahead and click. So the first action is specific to March. We're contacting our members of Congress, urging them to support the Prove It Act. This act helps us measure carbon intensity of certain imported goods, which then would help us negotiate effectively with trading partners. And it's building bipartisan momentum to act on global carbon pollution. So you can imagine this could be the beginning of a potential carbon border fee adjustment. There's a lot of goodness in this bill. So the ask is pretty straightforward. When you go to the CCL website, it's super quick. If you're logged in, it's even quicker. But I'll show you on the screen what you need to do. There's a lot of different info here if you want to read more about it. A video if you're better with just a quick little video learning, and some more details about what it consists of, just to make sure you're comfortable with it. But all you have to do is hit email your members of Congress. And then I'm already subscribed, and since I'm logged in, it already knows who I am. If you're not logged in, it'll just ask you for a couple more pieces of information to make sure it can tell who your representatives are. I'll hit continue. And then my representatives are Senator Brian Schatz and Senator Mazie Hirono. So it has a pre-filled little email. So you can send it like this. We do find that customized messages could work better, but if you're short on time, a message saying you care about climate is better than nothing. And then you just hit continue, and it would send your message. I'm going to customize this message after the meeting, so I'm not going to send it quite yet, but hopefully you can take that action. The link is in the chat. And the second action we have for this week is an urgent climate action, which typically I don't see a lot of urgent action requests from CCL, but there is a vote happening on Friday in the House, and it is a resolution saying that we should not have a carbon tax. It would be detrimental to the U.S. economy. So it's expected to come up for a vote on the floor on Friday. So it's really important that you call your representative. I did this earlier today, and it took maybe 2 minutes. It is already, since it's 6 p.m. Hawaii, definitely the offices are closed for the day in DC, but you'll be pushed over to voicemail. And if you don't like talking to people, it makes it a lot easier. So if you want to actually talk to a person, a staffer in the office, you can call tomorrow during the day, Eastern time. But we can take a minute if you guys would like to do the call during this call. I'm happy to give you a minute to do that. Or Ron, what would you recommend? And let me click on this. So when you click on this link here, I'll put it in the chat. It takes you to the handy dandy website.
Yeah, let's try and do it now.
Yeah. So basically what happens is you need to, if you're not logged in, it'll ask you for a little piece of information to find out your address and who your representative is. If you are logged in, this is the page you'll come to. A little description of what the click to call is. And when you hit call me, it actually just calls your phone right away. And then you can click through the menu, and I clicked to get to my representative and to leave a voicemail. There is a suggested script here as well, but you feel free to make up your own script. The goal is for them to vote no on this House Concurrent Resolution 86. And we did hear some rumors that you'd think the progressive members or the Democrats would be voting no, but there was some rumors that some of them were considering saying a carbon tax could be detrimental, which is a little surprising. So we want to make sure that both Democrats and Republicans are voting no if they can.
So this is a phone message versus a email message, or both?
Correct. So this one, the carbon tax voting no is a call, and the Prove It Act is an email.
Call recipient to end the voicemail and proceed to the next call. Press star.
Yeah, this is Ron.
This call is with the office of Congresswoman Tokuda. Press 1 when you are.
Ron, we can hear you, but that's good. Now you know how it goes. So when you call in, you'll get kind of right now, because it's after hours, you'll get a menu and you can select which number. Ron's still on the phone, right? Are you calling?
Yeah, he's leaving the message.
Looks like Roberta has her phone up too.
Looks like.
Yep, Ron's leaving a message. Woohoo! Good job, guys. And I know we're at time
later. So I've already warned that my signal is insufficient or something.
Oh no. Well, I know we're at 6, so thank you guys for joining. If you wanted to jump over to Noel's, EV owners, Zoom, feel free. We really appreciate everyone joining. And let us know if you have any questions. You can email us or, yeah.
So save the chat so you can leave your representative a message.
Yeah, perfect. It looks like Ron just finished. I'm just leaving this on to make sure Ron got his message.
I just finished and left a message because, as you say, the office is closed. It was quick and easy. And I think the point that Ruth made earlier about empowering your political voice. In my whole career of political activism, I had never called the U.S. Congress until I joined the Citizens Climate Lobby and got support and encouragement to do that. And that was wonderful because it turned me from a passive observer of what's happening regarding climate legislation into an active participant. And as many have said, action is an antidote to despair, and Citizens Climate has been a huge help for me in that regard. So thank you, Ashley, for bringing that onto our agenda tonight. Terrific.
And hopefully everyone saw how quick it was. It was super fast. I was really impressed with their process. Cool. Well, I guess we'll end it here. Thank you guys so much for joining, and save the chat, and hopefully we'll see you next month. I think it's April 17th. We'll send out an invite, obviously. April 17th is the next one.